everybody, and welcome to my third recording of today, my third and last recording of today. This session is postnatal recovery number 2. So I would really appreciate if you haven't already done postnatal recovery session 1, if you wouldn't mind just going through that one first before doing this session. There is a lot of talking in the first one, but it's really important stuff in there. Lots of foundation bits that are really important that you're aware of before moving on to this phase. In terms of time frame, there isn't really a set time as to when you should start or finish each of the separate levels or sessions. You just move on to the next one when you feel that you're ready to. So normally as a guide, I would say this session should be around the 6 to 8 week mark postnatally. Some women will feel ready to move on to this session before then, others won't feel ready for a while after the 8 week mark, which is fine. What I would say is if you've still got any pain, so if you're suffering from scar pain, episiotomy pain, or if you've had a perineal tear and you're still having discomfort from that, it might mean that you need to carry on with the first level 1 session for a bit longer. If you have a diastasis, so if you've done level 1 and you did your diastasis check and you feel that you have got a diastasis, hopefully if you've been working at level 1 for a while, you'll feel that there's some tension coming through your core and things are starting to connect a little bit better. And you can always go back to that initial diastasis check to check that is actually happening, and that you can feel that hopefully the depth of the gap is getting shallower. You can feel a little bit more going on in there. But if you feel that you still have a diastasis, then it's really important that you are aware of what's going on with your tummy, which we'll talk about in a bit. Other things to note are if you're experiencing symptoms that could indicate a pelvic organ prolapse. So if you've got pressure, dragging, heaviness, aching, a feel of an actual physical bulge inside your vagina, any of the above, you can do this session because it is low impact. It's not going to be putting a lot of strain into your pelvic floor, but at the same time just be really aware of how your body feels. If you're not happy, if you feel that any of your symptoms feel like they're getting worse, particularly after you've done the session, if you feel like that dragging or the heaviness feels like it's increased, then it might be too soon for you to move on to this particular level. Same thing that applies if you're suffering from any kind of incontinence. So if you feel that you leak during the session, if there's any particular exercise that brings on any leaks, I would suggest that exercise either needs to be modified or it's not appropriate for you to be doing at the moment. Remember that no leaks are normal. So if you are experiencing leaks, it's not to be expected because you've had a baby. It's not a normal thing to be happening, particularly if it is brought on with certain exercise. So just be really aware of that as well. I'm here if you need to contact me. So if you're doing an exercise and you're not happy, if you get discomfort or symptoms, if you leak or whatever, then pop me a message privately and we can have a chat, or we can arrange for a free telephone consultation or whatever, just to make sure that things aren't actually going to be made worse by you doing that. But hopefully this is a safe exercise session, so hopefully you're not going to feel like things are really getting any worse. So obviously we want things to be improving from doing this, so it's just to be aware that there are certain things to just monitor. So if we just recap briefly what we went through in level 1, so obviously we went through how to connect with your core, so we went through how to connect pelvic floor and tummy, which we're obviously going to be bringing into this session as well. We went through posture, so it's really important again that what we went through before we're taking through into this session as well. Really important that we're working in a neutral position, so we don't want to be overarched, we don't want to be slouched. We're trying to get out of that previous pregnancy stance and posture that you've been in for quite some time, obviously carrying your baby. So we're trying to come into that nice neutral position, and that's where we want to be working with all exercises in this session, because that's where we know that you get optimal core and pelvic floor activation. We're going to bring breathing in with everything. So breathing, as we went through before, is really essential part of your core function. And so you can bring your breathing in to enhance the exercise that you're doing. In this session, when we do the hard bits of the exercise, that is when we're trying to exhale. So breathe out on the effort. If you keep that in your mind throughout the session, that will make life easier as well. So any problems whatsoever, as usual, make sure you message me if you're not sure. Stop at any point if you're not happy, and again, message me. This session is going to be starting to build on what we went through before. So we're going to start bringing in some resistance. Nothing too crazy. So I have got a few bits of equipment down here. Now I am going to pop a link onto the group page about where you can get bits and bobs if you want to buy anything. I think some delivery places are still up and running, so if you needed any equipment, you could probably still buy something off of there. So I'll put a link up. Magic circles, if you've got one, are really useful for adding in a little bit more resistance, and we're going to be using this throughout the session. If you don't have a magic circle, don't worry too much about it, because you can just do the arm action pretending that you've got a circle there, but not actually using one, which will make more sense in a minute when we actually start. I've got a couple of head blocks, so as usual I've got a bigger one and a smaller one. Use pillows and towels instead if you haven't got any actual blocks. I've also got some TheraBand, which is really useful because it just adds a little bit more resistance in and just gets the muscles working a little bit harder, as you'll find as we go along. And I've got a little ball as well. I'm not 100% sure if we're actually going to use this in this session, but I quite like them. They're useful to have. So I've got one of these just here as well. So we're going to get going. So we're going to start in standing. So you're going to just bring your feet underneath your hips. And I just want you to come up nice and tall. And to start with, I just want you to think about where you're holding your weight through your feet. So we're going to just set you up and just get you into a nice standing position. So I just want you to transfer your weight. So if you imagine you have a marble on the bottom of each foot, and I want you to imagine that you're rolling the marble forward across the foot onto the ball of the foot, and then back down through the foot to the heel. So we're just going to roll the ball forward and then roll it back to the heel. And we're just going to keep going. So we're just transferring your weight forward and back. And then let's just come back to the centre, and we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're just going to transfer your weight side to side. So I just want you to take your weight onto one foot, and then we're going to shift over to the other. And again, sometimes it just feels really strange doing this because we're not used to just really feeling where your weight actually is in standing. You just stand without thinking about it. So it's quite interesting to see if it's a little bit harder or it feels a little bit weirder transferring your weight onto one side compared to the other. So let's just come back to the centre, and then I want you to think about big toe, little toe, heel. And now I just want you to try and settle so that your weight is evenly spread between those 3 points on each foot. So we don't want to be pressing back onto the heels so the toes are coming away from the floor. We don't want to be over pressing down into the toes. We just want to be nice and neutral through the whole foot on both sides. You should feel that your weight is even across both feet. Okay, so we're just going to let the knees bend ever so slightly. If your knees are locked out completely straight, particularly if you've got a bit of hypermobility, so if you've got a bit more movement in your knees, what that tends to do, it throws the pelvis forwards and you tend to come into that overarch position into your back. So it's a little bit harder for you to then come into neutral. So if you just let your knees soften just a little bit, not too bent, but just a little bend in the knees, so we're not locked out straight. And then we're going to come to the pelvis, pop your hands onto the brim of your pelvis. And I just want you to think about your tailbone, and we're just going to tuck it underneath. So we're just going to imagine your pelvis is your bucket of water. We're going to tuck the tailbone underneath. So we're just going to slosh the water back into the bucket, and then we're going to slosh it forward in the bucket. So we're arching it a little bit into the spine. We're just going to keep going. Let's just do one more. And then we're going to find your neutral position. So we don't want your spine to be arched, we don't want it to be flat, we're just coming into the centre, and if you imagine your water in the bucket, the water should just be nice and level, okay? Your rib cage is positioned over the pelvis. So people do forget about the upper body as well. So it's very common that during pregnancy, your posture sort of further up changes as well. So what we don't want is for you to be flaring your rib cage upwards, but then we don't want it to be dropping down either. So again, we're just in a nice neutral position. Your rib cage is just stacked over the pelvis. Shoulder blades are just drawing nicer down, and your neck is long and lengthened up towards the ceiling. So from here, we're going to go back to your core activation. So we're thinking pelvic floor, we're thinking tummy. So I want you to imagine that you need to hold wind all of a sudden, and we're going to think about your back passage. And we're going to, first of all, just tighten the muscles around the back passage first, but then we're going to draw that contraction forward and up towards your tummy button. Okay, and then we're just going to let it go. And again, so we're going to squeeze first, gently draw up. So you should feel some tensioning coming through into your lower tummy as well when you do that. And then let it go. Now this time we're going to bring your breathing in with it. So we're going to take a breath in. Keep that nice position. As you exhale, think about that drawing up effect. So squeeze, connect around your back passage, and then we're going to draw up into the tummy. And we're going to hold it. And then let it go. And again, so we're going to breathe out. Connect, lift. Breathe in. Allow the muscle to relax completely and let your pelvic floor drop. We're going to do 2 more. So breathe out. Breathe in, let it go. Last one. And let it go. Now we're going to add in a little bit more now. Okay, so we're going to use your circle if you've got one. If you haven't got one, I want you to do the same thing with the arms. Pretend that you've got a circle. It will still connect with the muscles, but not to the same extent. So we're keeping that nice position. You're going to take your arms in front. Your hands, or the heel of each hand, is going to rest against each of the padded bits on the side. Shoulder blades are down, fingers are long. Okay, so we're going to do exactly the same thing. So we're going to take a breath in. As you exhale, we're going to connect pelvic floor to tummy, but we're just going to add a little squeeze against the circle at the same time. And you should feel more of a connection into your core. Breathe in, allow the muscle to relax, and release the tension on the circle. And again, so breathe out. Connect, feel that tension lifting up and forward. Breathe in and let it go. 2 to go. And last one. And relax. So you should feel that just by adding in that little squeeze against the circle, you can feel that activation coming through that little bit deeper. So you're really connecting into your core that bit more. So now we're going to bring in the circle. We're going to add in some arm and leg movement with it as well. So again, if you haven't got a circle, don't worry. We're just going to hold your arms out. And I want you to visualize the circle there, and you're just going to imagine that you've got it there, and you're going to keep it there in your head. And we're just going to do exactly the same movements, but without the circle physically, okay? So we're going to connect again. So this time, we're going to switch on your core. So just a very little squeeze against the circle. Connect with your centre, so pelvic floor to tummy, just very gently. Another visual you can use is to imagine your zip going from pubic bone to tummy button, and you're just imagining that you're drawing up into that imaginary zip. We're just going to hold it. It's not a maximal contraction, it's just a gentle tensioning. So about half of what a maximal contraction would be. So little tension on the circle. We're going to hold for a breath in. Breathe out, keep the tension on the circle. We're going to reach your arms up. Breathe in. Come back down. Just down so that the hands are roughly level with the shoulders. And we're going to keep going. So breathe out. Breathe in. and keep going. Lengthen up tall, make sure that you're staying in neutral through that spine. So every time you exhale, we're thinking about connecting that little bit deeper, pelvic floor to tummy. 2 more. And then come all the way down and let it go completely. Okay, so it's really important that the muscle gets a bit of a chance to relax as well throughout the session. We don't want to be focusing on tighten without any relaxation at all, because some women do have overactive pelvic floors, so obviously doing lots of tightening isn't very good for them. And also we don't want to knacker out the muscle. So if you have got a very weak pelvic floor, obviously the more you're activating, the tighter it's going to be. So it's important that it gets periods of rest throughout the session as well. So we're going to do a similar thing, but this time we're adding in some rotation with it. So we're going to take the arms in front. Again, a little squeeze. Imagine your little squeeze if you haven't got the circle. So we're going to connect into your core. Again, imagine your imaginary zip, pelvic floor into tummy. Breath in. Breathe out. This time we're going to rotate. Hold for a breath in at the end. And then breathe out again. Back to the centre. So breath in. Breathe out. Breath in. And breathe out. Let's keep going. Breath in. And breathe out. Breath in. Keep going. Breath in. Breathe out as you turn. Breath in. And back. Last time each way. Breath in. And out. Breath in. Back. Last time. Breath in. Breath in. And come down. And we'll just let it go again. So let the muscle relax. Let's just roll the shoulders a couple of times each direction. So this time we're going to add some leg in with it. Now, it's really important that we're keeping that nice control around the pelvis. We want to stay in neutral. If you feel that when you start adding some legs in, a couple of things can happen. One is that you just can't keep that stabilisation around the pelvis. So you might shift, you might drop one side, you might wobble all over the place. You might also find that if you've got a significant diastasis, that your tummy just pops forward and you just can't control that. We don't want either of those things happening, okay? So it's really important that you stick with the level that you can really keep things controlled and optimal. If you feel that you're cheating or you just struggle too much, it's too much for you, okay? So come down a level. So we're going to start very easy, we'll gradually layer in. So, again, arms in front if you've got your circle, little squeeze. If you haven't, don't worry, pretend that you're doing the squeeze. So we're going to connect again, pelvic floor to tummy. Breath in, keep the shoulder blades drawing down. Breathe out, we're going to take one heel up. Breathe in, down. Other side, breathe out. Breathe in, down. So you can see that I'm keeping my pelvis nice and level. Tummy stays drawn in. I'm trying to connect that little bit deeper as the heel lifts and I breathe out, and I'm keeping my squeeze on the circle. So we're going to add on by adding in a little bit of hip opening after this one. So we're going to take the heel up, little squeeze on your circle. This time we're going to open the knee to the side, take it back to the centre, and then bring the heel down. Other side. So we're going to breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in to open, breathe out, breathe in, cut down. Let's keep going. And last one. we're going to layer in a little bit more. So as we move on, just really be mindful of how you're feeling. If you've got a mirror in front of you, brilliant. If this next one is too much, go back to your heel lifts that we were doing before. So again, breath in, connect, little squeeze, breathe out. We're going to shift your weight onto one side and we're going to take one leg up to tabletop. Breathe in, bring it down. Use your exhale, breathe out. Breathe in. So if you feel like you're wobbling, twisting, dropping through the pelvis, or tummy is popping forward too much, then just do the heel lifts and don't do the full leg lift. Let's just do one more on each side. And come down, well done. Arms down, just roll the shoulders a few times each direction. We're going to do some squats and we're going to do some lunges. Okay, now squats and lunges, really important exercises. You're squatting and you're lunging throughout the day. Every time you bend to pick up something up, you know, how many times a day you're getting up out of a chair, it's all squatting. So it's really important that we think about engaging your pelvic floor and core as you're doing those sorts of exercises in the correct way, but also strengthening up your legs, okay, which again do weaken during pregnancy. So we're going to take your feet just slightly wider than your hips. We're going to use the circle again if you want to. If you've had enough of the circle now, you can pop it down. If you haven't got the circle, just do the arms without. Okay, so we're going to take your arms in front. Little squeeze against the circle. Now we're going to breathe in, you're going to come down into your squat. Make sure knees are bending out over second and third toe. Keep the weight coming into the back of the heel now. Now as you come up, we're going to breathe out. I want you to think about lifting into pelvic floor to tummy. So we're going to breathe in to come down. Breathe out. Think about that connection. Now it is difficult to feel a strong connection with your pelvic floor as you're coming up into out of your squat, but I want you to visualize it. So use your breathing, imagine that you're engaging into the back passage and you're drawing up through forward to the tummy. So we're going to breathe in, keep the shoulders down, breathe out, think about that connection as you come up. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in. So this is what you need to be doing every time you get out of a chair. Okay, so we're coming out of the chair now, breathe out. As you come down into the chair, breathe in. As you come out of the chair, breathe out. Okay, every time you bend to pick something up, as you're coming back up, we're exhaling. Let's do 3 more. Now we're going to hold at the bottom, we're going to pulse for 10. 10, 9, 8, 7. You're still exhaling every time you lift. 4, 3, 2, 1, and come up. Well done, just roll your shoulders. A few times each way. So we're going to add some lunges in now. So lunges, again, they're horrible exercises, but really, really important. You're doing it all the time. Every time you bend, you know, walking, whatever it may be, it's that sort of action, isn't it? So we're lifting the back heel. Make sure both feet are pointing forwards. The back heel is going to lift. Now remember, it's an up and down movement rather than a forward and back movement, okay? So we're going to take your arms in front. Make sure the front knee is not sweeping inwards, okay? So we want the knee to be angling over second and third toe. The reason why we say that is because it's quite nice just to keep nice control through the pelvis, but also it can be a little bit of a strain on your knee if it's not in a nice position. So again, squeeze against the circle, relax the shoulders. We're going to breathe in on the way down, back knee towards the floor, exhale on the way up. Think about that connection again as you're lifting up to back up to standing. So breathe in, breathe out, connect that bit deeper on the way up. Let's do 2 more. And we're going to pulse for 10 at the bottom. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold. We're going to lift, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, last time, breathe in, well done, and come up. Hold on, just shake your legs off. Obviously we're going to do the same on the other side as well. So again, step in between the feet, lift the back heel, make sure both feet are pointing forwards, okay? And then again, we're trying to keep that nice level pelvis through the front, so we don't want to be standing with a twist through the pelvis, okay? So again, it's back leg that does the work. Bring your arms in front, connect first, and again, we're going to breathe in, exhale as you come up. Breathe in, breathe out. Let's keep going, we're going to do 2 more. And on the last one, we're going to pulse for 10. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and hold. We're going to breathe out, lift, breathe in, down, breathe out, breathe in, down. Last one. Oh, I'm losing my balance. It's quite hard to talk and do this at the same time. Okay, so bring your legs in and then shake them off. So I hope that felt okay. It's very normal that you'll feel burning and aching in your legs doing that. And especially at this sort of stage in the postnatal period, you may still find that your legs feel quite weak. So don't worry if you couldn't complete that whole section. Hopefully with a bit of practice you'll be able to after some time. So we're going to come down onto the floor now. We're going to just do a few cat stretches on hands and knees. I quite like using something underneath my knees for hands and knees work. Don't like my kneecaps digging into the floor. So if you've got a little cushion or a folded up towel, perfect. You don't have to use one, but I quite like using one. So we've got knees just under hips. You can take your hands a bit forwards and a bit wider than shoulders. So we're going to start introducing a little bit more hands and knees work in this session as well. But we're just going to do a little mobility exercise before we do that. Okay, so shoulders are drawing down. We're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to scoop the tailbone under and we're curling up through the spine. Drop your chin onto the chest at the end. Hold it for a breath in. So you're really trying to engage into that core. Breathe out, we're coming back down. And again, so take a breath in, breathe out, tailbone under. Hold it for a breath in and breathe out again. Come back down. Let's continue, carry on. So just move as far as you want to go in each direction. Obviously if you've got niggly back, you might well not want to push too much in either direction. So just listen to your body and do what feels good. So let's just do one last one. And then we're just going to have a little stretch. So stretch out your arms, bottom back on heels, come down and hold. Well done. So we're going to turn onto your back. So quite important that you have something underneath your head. And as I mentioned before, this session is about bringing in a little bit more resistance to what we're doing. So if you want to, you can use your circle again. If you haven't got a circle, you can just do arms without. Okay, so don't worry too much. But if you can get hold of one of these, they're not very expensive. I think they're about 20 quid. But they're really useful, and you'll use it throughout the rest of your Pilates practice if you like your Pilates and you want to continue after your postnatal rehab sort of phase. Really, really useful piece of equipment. So we're going to just get into the right position first. So we've got feet, knees and hips lined up, nice and parallel. Toes are pointing forwards, knees are pointing up. Just make sure that your spine and pelvis are in a nice neutral position like we did in standing. So when we're here, what I want you to do is just flatten into the small of the back. So we're thinking about that bucket of water again. And you're just going to tilt it back. The tailbone just lifts slightly. The back flattens. And then we're going to roll back off and just allow the spine to arch. But again, don't move to pain. So we're just working in a comfortable range. So let's go again. So you're flattening. We're just doing a little pelvic tilt. And then we're coming off. And again. And come off. And last one. And then I just want you to come into neutral. So neutral is roughly halfway between the flat and the arched positions, and you should feel that your pelvis is nice and level. You should be able to connect nicely into pelvic floor and tummy, and set your centre well. So collarbones are wide, shoulder blades are drawing down, and rib cage is nice and soft and relaxed. So now you're in the right position. So we're going to do some abdominal work. Now it's not going to be sit-ups, planks, crunches, double leg lifts, anything that involves lots of increased intra-abdominal pressure. So that's pressure in your abdomen, particularly if you've got diastasis. Even if you feel like it's progressing, we don't want to be loading the core too soon. We don't want to be generating lots of pressure that can't be managed well. So things that we need to watch out for. One, you need to be able to keep the connection with your pelvic floor and lower tummy throughout the exercise. If you feel like it's going, if you feel like you just really can't connect with the muscle, it might be that you're just loading it too much. So you need to come down a notch. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing is you should be able to breathe. If you feel like you're really struggling to breathe, if it's really shallow breathing, or if your rib cage just isn't really moving a great deal as you're exercising, you're probably fixing with your upper or superficial tummy muscles. So your rib cage just can't move very well. And again, it's not a very efficient way of exercising. It generates a lot more pressure in the tummy and abdomen. The other thing to remember is that we don't want to be bearing down into the pelvic floor. So if you're really squeezing into your tummy, or if your rib cage isn't moving, that generates pressure. Now that pressure has to go somewhere, and it will either pop out into the path of least resistance. So if you've got a diastasis, what will happen is your tummy will pop up, and you'll often get that ridge effect. So we call it doming, or we call it sort of a bulging of your linea alba, so the band that comes down the central line of your abdomen, and you'll see that ridge popping up. So we don't want that. That's a mismanagement of pressure during exercise. And what that will do is it will cause a stretch effect into the linea alba, and it could potentially make your diastasis worse if you keep doing it over and over again. So that's one thing. The other thing we don't want is for that pressure to bear down into your pelvic floor for obvious reasons. If you have a prolapse, if you have weakness in your pelvic floor, if you're leaking urine, we don't want to be pushing down, because that can essentially make things weaker, and it can make your symptoms worse as well. So it needs to be comfortable. You need to be able to breathe. You need to be able to keep your position. You need to be able to keep that connection on with your pelvic floor and tummy. And if you feel that you're struggling to do any of those things, plus you're getting a popping up effect of the tummy, particularly if you're getting a ridging through that linea alba, or if you feel like you're bearing down into your pelvic floor, or if you leak urine, then you're overdoing it. Okay, so lots to think about there, I know, but if you think about in your mind that it needs to be comfortable as you're exercising and not straining anywhere, then that sort of makes life a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to take your circle, we're going to bring your arms up, and what I want you to do is stay in neutral. We're going to draw the shoulder blades down into the floor. As you did in standing, I want you to just put a little squeeze against the grey bits. Now remember, it's not as hard as you can. You're not trying to squeeze the circle sort of, as hard as possible. It's just a little squeeze just to feel your armpit muscles kicking in. Okay, so you'll feel a little bit of a connection in your armpits, and you should hopefully feel a bit of overflow and a deeper connection into your core muscles. So we're going to just take the hands up so that they're just over the shoulders. Keep the fingers long, so we don't want to be gripping onto the circle because that's energy that we don't need. And we're just going to hold that there. Now connect pelvic floor to tummy, so you're engaging your centre first. Okay, now we're going to take a breath in. As you breathe out, nice and easy to start, we're going to just let one knee open out to the side, and then we're going to close it back up. So the arms are staying where they are, and we're just moving the legs. So you're going to breathe out to open, take a little breath in at the end, and then breathe out again to close. We're trying to focus on keeping the pelvis as level as possible, so we don't want any twisting or dropping going on through the pelvis. And the leg that you're not moving is staying completely still. And we're going to do one more on each side. Well done. Now this time we're going to change. So instead of opening the hip, we're going to keep the spine in neutral, keep the shoulders down, connect your centre first, breath in, breathe out, we're going to take one leg to tabletop. And breathe in, control it back to the floor. Other side, breathe out. Breathe in, down. Breathe out. Breathe in. So every time you breathe out and you're lifting that leg, you're connecting that little bit deeper pelvic floor to tummy. You shouldn't feel like your back is arching. So we don't want to be arching, we don't want to be flattening the back. So as you lift the leg, we're not flattening, and as you're lowering, we're not arching. So everything stays still. We're just moving from the hip and keeping that nice connection on with the core. So let's just do one more on each side. And then we're going to go into arms. Now remember, if you need to stop and rest, then do. So we're going to stay in this position, little squeeze on the circle. This time we're going to breathe in, and as you breathe in, we're going to take the arms back. Now, you're not going to take them back all the way to the floor, okay? I just want you to take them back just until you feel that if you were to go any further, you'll lose the control around your shoulders. So you might feel like they're starting to creep up to the ears, or you're starting to arch a little bit into your back, okay? So we just want to keep the spine in neutral. As you exhale, keep the squeeze on the circle, and we're going to return back to where you started. Okay, so we're breathing in, and exhale, connect that a little bit deeper, pelvic floor to tummy, as you're coming back. Breathe in, come back. And breathe out. 2 to go. Well done. Now this time we're going to keep the arms where they are, and we're going to take one leg to tabletop. Now we're just going to do the leg on its own to start. So keeping the pelvis level. Now again, if you can't keep the pelvis level, if you can't control what we're doing, Pop your arms down by the side and don't worry about using the circle, okay? The circle is just to move things on a little bit. But if you don't feel that you can control it well, don't use it, okay? So we're going to take the leg up. From here, we're going to take a breath in and we're going to stretch the leg out as you breathe out. When the leg is straight, the knees are roughly lined up, so they're roughly level. Take a breath in at the end and then breathe out, withdrawing back in. So breathe out. Keep the spine in neutral as you stretch the leg out. Breath in. Breathe out. Breath in. Breathe out. Breath in. Breathe out. Now next one, we're going to add arms in with it. So as you stretch the leg, we're going to take the arms back like we did before. Breath in, hold. Breathe out, back to where you started. Okay, so breathe out. Breath in. Breathe out. Let's do 2 more on this side. Try and keep it nice and controlled. And then bring that leg down. We're going to do the same on the other side. So just the leg on its own first. So breathe out, breath in, breathe out. Keep going. Keep the shoulder blades drawing down, so make sure you're not losing control through your upper body. Next one, we're adding arms back in. So again, stretch, breathe in, and breathe out, return. Let's just do one more. And then bring the leg down. Pop your circle down, bring your knees in for a moment and just let your back flatten, and we're going to rotate the legs round. So you have to remember that at the moment we're still trying to work the deepest layer of your core. So it's all about control, it's all about bringing in your breathing and activating the right areas. At the moment, double leg lifts, so doing exercises where both legs are up is going to be too much, 9 times out of 10. So in this session, we're not doing both legs up, we're still just working one leg at a time, but we're adding in ways of bringing in resistance as well, okay? What we are going to do is we're going to do a very controlled curl up. And if you've got diastasis, I don't want you to do this, okay? So I think let's give it a go. We'll monitor what happens to your tummy as you do it, and see what happens. If you feel like you're doing any of the things that we talked about a minute ago, so bearing down, popping up, not controlling the movement very well, then it's not for you at the moment. Okay, so just really be aware of that. If you've got, if you're able to, I would suggest roll your top up so you can see your tummy as you do this. Okay, so you can have a look and see what's actually going on with your tummy. So what we're going to do, first of all, just make sure that you're in neutral. So we're finding that mid position. Now you're going to connect into your centre first. So like we've been doing, pelvic floor to lower tummy first. Get that switched on. You're going to reach your fingers towards your feet. Take a breath in. Now as you exhale, we're going to keep that connection, okay, which then stops you. If you're lifting a little bit into your pelvic floor, it's going to stop you from pushing down into it, okay? So as you exhale, we're going to lift the head and you're going to curl up. Now I want you to look down at your tummy when you do this, okay? What you should notice is that 1, your pelvis stays level. 2, your lower tummy stays flat. So what we don't want is that popping up or that doming of that lower tummy as you lift, okay? The other thing is you shouldn't see your linea alba or that central line popping upwards either. So it can often be like a little ridge that sticks up down through the centre. So you shouldn't see any of those things as you do your curl up. It's really important as well that as you curl up, we're not trying to do a sit up. So we're not trying to do a crunch, okay? It's a very controlled movement. So you're keeping your spine in neutral. You don't have to even lift up very high, okay? It's just to start loading the core a little bit more. So neutral through the spine. Connect, pelvic floor, tummy. Reach fingers towards feet. Breath in. Really important that you exhale. So again, exhale, keep that connection. Lift the head. If you can, curl up a little bit more, but you're thinking about still keeping the spine in neutral. Almost thinking about bringing rib cage towards pelvis. And then we're going to breathe in and come back down. We're just going to do another 3 of these. Okay, so take a breath in. Exhale, lift. Look at your tummy, see what's happening. And breathe in, come back down. If you've had a C-section, you might find your tummy muscles are completely non-existent at the moment anyway, so this might be a bit tricky for you at the moment, in which case come back to it in a few more weeks. So breath in, exhale. Breathe in, come back down. Last time. Well done. And then we're just going to draw your knees in. Let your back flatten. Circle the legs around. So any problems whatsoever with that exercise, it's too much for you at the moment and I don't want you to do it. I just want you to practice the other bits that we've gone through and come back to it maybe in a few more weeks. So we're going to go into your bridges now. Now if you've got your circle, great. We're going to use your circle again. And what we're going to do is you're going to take your feet and we're going to thread them through the circle. You're going to rest the padded bits just on the outsides of the thighs. Okay, so roughly halfway between hip and knee. If you don't have a circle, you can tie your legs together with your TheraBand. Okay, so aim for mid-thigh. If you bring your legs together as you tie them together so that your band is going to be as tight as possible. You don't want it so tight you can't move though. So just a loop and then another loop on top, aiming for sort of mid-thigh. Okay, so either tie your legs together or use the circle. So we're going to start off just doing some normal bridges. Now you might find that you need to come down a little bit lower underneath your head for these, okay? So arms are down by side. We're going to take a breath in. On the out breath, we're going to scoop the tailbone under and we're going to curl up through the spine. So we're lifting up into your bridge. If you've got your circle around your, if you've got your legs in between your circle, little connection, legs against circle as you lift. Hold at the top for a breath in. Make sure you can feel those glutes switching on. As you exhale, we're going to roll down, coming through one segment of the spine at a time, all the way through and back to the tailbone. And we're going to continue for a few more here. So exhale, lift. Inhale at the top. Exhale, come down. Now we're trying to come down one segment of the spine at a time. Your back may well feel like it doesn't want to do that still, which is fine. Just do what you can. So let's keep going. We're going to do one more. So we're going to hold at the top. Now we're going to do right leg on its own. And what we're going to do is we're going to press it out against the circle, or if you've got your band, against the band, and we're just doing right leg. So keep your pelvis level, try and keep your left leg still. We're going to press the right leg out, and then we're going to bring it back. And again, breathe out. Breathe in, bring it back. So just that right leg. Breathe out. Breathe in. 2 more. And back last time. And back. And then we're going to roll down through the spine again before we do the other side. So take a breath in at the bottom, and breathing out, we're going to roll back up. This time left leg. So keep your right leg still, keep your pelvis level, and take a breath in. Left leg is going to press out, and left leg back in. Breathe out. Breathe in, bring it back. Let's do 2 more. And then we're going to do some hip drops. So back to the centre, we're just going to drop the hips straight down towards the floor, but don't let them touch. And then we're going to squeeze and lift back up. So we're going to breathe in, drop the hips down, don't let them touch the floor. Breathe out. Squeeze and lift. Let's keep going. So breathe in, drop down. Breathe out, squeeze and lift. We're going to do 2 more. Hold it for a breath in. And then breathing out, we're going to roll back down again, nice and controlled, all the way through the spine. And then when you get to the bottom, we're going to hug your knees in towards you. You can just take your circle or your band off, just pop it to one side. Bring your knees in, and we're just going to let the back flatten and roll the legs around. And then back around the other way. Well done. So from here, we're going to turn onto one side. So we're going to use your TheraBand now. So if you've still got your band on from the bridges, then you feel free just to keep it on. So we're going to tie your legs together. So aiming for mid-thigh, nice wide band. Just tie one loop and then another loop on top. So again, we're just adding in a bit more resistance. We're going to turn onto one side. Make sure you've got support underneath your head. We're going to bend the knees, and you're going to keep the feet together. Make sure your hips are forward. And make sure you're comfortable before we start. Okay, so hips are forward. We're going to connect pelvic floor into tummy. Make sure that top shoulder is drawing down. We're going to do some work for your top hip. So we're going to breathe in to prepare. On the out breath, we're just going to open up the top knee. So we're just opening the hip, and then we're going to come back down. And again, so breathe out, open. Connect the heels together that little bit deeper as you open the knee up. Just one more, and then if you want to, we can make it slightly harder. So we're going to keep the feet together, but we're going to lift the feet away from the floor. Okay, so the hips are still forward. Connect the tummy, take a breath in. Breathe out, we're going to open the top knee. So again, heels are tightening together as you lift. Breathe in down. So think about just pressing them together, just that little bit more as you open. And then come down. Keep going. And we've just got one left. Well done. And bring the legs down. We're going to stretch the legs out now. What I want you to do is just look down at your feet. You shouldn't be able to see your kneecaps if you look straight down at your feet. If you can, bring them back in line a little bit more. Okay, so we want the foot, the knee, the hip and the shoulder to roughly be in a nice line all the way through. But I don't want you to be completely flat into your side. So if you imagine that you've got a strawberry and it's going a little bit soft, but we're just going to place it in between the floor and your side, and we don't want to squash it. Okay, so you're going to keep a very slight sense of space in between your side and the floor. So again, connect first. Breathe out. We're going to lift the top leg up. Breathe in, bring it down. And again, breathe out, lift. Breathe in, bring it down. Keep that space in your side. Breathe out. Breathe in, keep the connection on. Keep going. Last two. And then we're going to take the leg down just to hip height, and we're going to work the bottom leg. Okay, so the top leg stays still. Bottom leg is going to do the work now. So connect, breathe out, lift, breathe in, bring it down, breathe out, breathe in, keep going. Still trying to keep that little strawberry in between your side and the floor. And we're going to do two more. Well done. So just hug that top leg up towards you. And we're going to do some arm openings, which are fabulous exercises for loosening into your upper back and your rib cage. So palms are out in front, your head is resting down on your block, nice and heavy. Connect into your centre first, always first. Take a breath in. As you breathe out, we're going to open the top arm away from the bottom arm. Watch the hands. We're getting some nice rotation coming through your neck and your upper back. Breath in when you get to the end. Breathe out. Keep the connection on with your core. And we're controlling all the way back. We're going to keep going for another three. So breath in, breathe out. Last two. Keep that shoulder drawing down as you open. Last one. Well done. So we're going to carefully turn onto the other side, and we're going to do the same again on the other leg. So just take your time just getting there. So again, we've got knees bent, feet together, hips are forward, little strawberry in your side, connecting to your core, make sure that top shoulder is drawing down. Breath in, breathe out, we're going to open the top knee, and breathe in, come down. And again, breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. And in. Let's do one more, and then we're going to take it up into level 2 if you want. So we're going to lift the feet, connect the heels together that little bit stronger as you open and down. Breathe out. Breathe in. And last one. and come down, and we're going to stretch the legs like we did before to make sure we've got enough space to move. So again, look down at the feet, make sure you've got that lovely line going all the way through. We've got that little lift effect through your side. Connect the tummy. Breathe out top leg. Breathe in down. And again. So again, as you're lifting the leg up, try not to flatten your side down into the floor. So we're keeping that lift the whole time. We're going to do 2 more. And last one, we're just going to lower the foot down just to hip level. Bottom leg is going to lift and bring the bottom leg down. And again, breathe out, lift. Breathe in, down. And let's do 2 more. And then bring that top knee up. Give it a little stretch. We're going to go back to your arm openings. So if you bring your arms out in front, palms are together, connect into your core, shoulders are drawing down. We're going to open, breathing out as you open, breath in at the end, breathe out again to come back. And again. Keep it going for a few more. And last one. Well done. So from here, hopefully you're feeling okay. We're going to turn over now onto your hands and knees. So we're going to do a little bit of work on hands and knees. Don't know why I'm doing that, don't really need to. Right, so we can go back to your little pad underneath your knees if you want to. So, knees are underneath hips, hands can go slightly forward and slightly wider than your shoulders. Now we're going to keep it quite easy to start with, and we're going to do arms on their own. Okay, so shoulder blades are drawing down, same as before, so we're trying to connect pelvic floor to tummy in this position. Breath in, as you exhale, we're going to reach one arm in front, and then inhale, bring it down. Exhale, other side. Inhale, bring it down. So again, shoulders are drawing down. Make sure that the rib cage, your upper back and your pelvis just stay nice and level. Keep that connection on with the core. Try and deepen that connection if you can every time you exhale. Let's do one more each side. And then we're going to go on to legs. We're going to keep the pelvis level. We're going to bring one knee in slightly, and then we're going to stretch that leg out behind. And then bring it down. And then other side, so the knee comes in slightly. Breathe out, stretch. And breathe in, down. And let's keep going. So it's all about the core, but obviously we're trying to strengthen you generally. So we're strengthening into your arms, we're strengthening into your legs. The next progression, so the next session, so Postnatal Recovery 3, is going to be building on that even more. So next one, we're going to add arms in. So opposite arm to leg, we're going to do the same thing with the leg. So knee comes in slightly, stretch the leg out, but opposite arm reaches as well. And then come down. Now if this is too much, just go back to the arms on their own or the legs on their own. So again, we want to keep things controlled. If you're finding that you just can't keep your balance, or if you're just all over the show, then obviously it's probably a little bit too advanced at the moment. So just go back a level and just do arms or legs by themselves. So we're just going to do one more on each side. And then give yourself a stretch. So bottom back on heels, stretch out your arms in front. And we're just going to let everything go now. So I want you to relax your pelvic floor, relax your tummy, and just focus on breathing. So nice big deep breaths in and out, right into the base of the rib cage. Well done. So we're going to turn over now. So we're going to come back over onto your back and we're just going to do some stretches. Now, if you've got your TheraBand or your circle near you, useful to have here. But we're going to start off just with some rotational stretches into the spine. So make sure your head is well supported, arms are out to the side, palms are facing up. Connect the legs together. We're going to roll the knees to one side as far as they'll go. Just let your head rotate into the opposite direction. Hold for a breath in. And then breathing out, we're going to bring the legs back to the centre and the head back to the centre. So again, other side, we're going to breathe out. Hopefully I'm not flashing my pants at you. Sorry if I am. So breathe out, legs over, head rotates. Breath in, hold. And then breathing out, back to where you started. Let's just do one more each way. And then we're going to come back to the centre and we're going to stretch your glutes. So one foot is going to rest onto the opposite knee. If that's already stretching, leave it there. If you want to hug the other leg in to increase the stretch, again, feel free. So just drawing in and holding. Go back to your breathing. So you don't have to worry about engaging and keeping everything switched on now. It's all about letting go, relaxing, and really focusing on how you're breathing here. So we want to really feel the rib cage expanding up and out as you breathe in. Shoulders should stay nice and relaxed. And then the out breath should just be a nice relaxed breath out. So we don't want to be forcing the air out as you breathe out. Well done. So let's bring the feet to the floor, other foot onto opposite knee, and then draw that side in if you want to. Well done. So bring the feet to the floor now. If you've got your circle or your band, we're just going to take it and I just want you to rest it around the bottom of one foot, holding the other bit in your hands. Bring the knee into the chest and then we're just going to stretch the leg to the ceiling. Don't force it. If you feel like your leg is really shaking or resisting the stretch, you don't want to be really trying to force it into that. So keep it really gentle. But what you can do is just gently point and flex the ankle up and down. So we're just lengthening into the stretch and then coming out of it a little bit more. Make sure you're still breathing. Bend the knee and bring the foot down, and we're going to do the same on the other side. So again, knee up, stretch it up, and again, we're just pointing and flexing gently in and out of the stretch. and then bring that leg down. Pop your circle to one side. We're going to turn over onto the side, and then we're going to sit up. Okay, just make sure your head feels okay, you don't feel dizzy, lightheaded. We're going to come up into standing nice and carefully. So you've completed postnatal recovery session 2. A little bit of a step forward from session 1. Obviously we're starting to introduce a bit more resistance, which you'll hopefully feel a little bit more going on in your core, but we're still very mindful of diastasis, of pelvic floor issues, of any symptoms or discomfort. Now it's really important that you're listening to your body, you respect how it's feeling. It's really hard, isn't it, when you just want to get back to where you were after a baby. I've had 2 myself, so I know exactly what it's like. When you've had a cesarean, you need to give yourself a bit longer. I mean, I had 2 cesareans myself, and you just can't rush things. You know, you've got to take things gently. It's really important that you keep doing these basic exercises until you feel ready, really, for yourself to advance on. There's no point in doing things too soon. If you've got diastasis, be really, really careful. The other thing to note is that if you are having symptoms of incontinence or pelvic floor problems or prolapse, you've got to keep doing your pelvic floor exercises, okay? So there is no substitute form of exercise that is better for improving those symptoms from those problems than your prescribed specific pelvic floor training. Pilates is great. Obviously it brings in pelvic floor. It's fantastic for loads of different things, but there's no real firm research which goes above and beyond your pelvic floor training. So make sure that you're carrying on with that as well as doing these sessions. I'm going to try and do a specific pelvic floor session at some point. So if you're getting bored of doing your exercises at home, you want to mix it up a bit, you can do a specific pelvic floor class. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that, hopefully soon, but obviously you'll hear when I've sort of uploaded that onto the computer or onto the group. So for now, level 1, great, you've done level 2. I would stay doing this level 2 until you feel, particularly if you've got diastasis, that tensioning is continuing to improve before you move on to level 3, which I'm going to upload soon. But well done, as usual. Any comments, any problems, please let me know. If you've got questions, let me know. If there's any exercise that you're not happy with, if you leak, if you've got any increased symptoms, message me. And hopefully you'll come back and join me again in another session soon. Thank you and take care.